after death, before death, something like that. They provide even the group identity to the persons. For example, when it comes to Bangkok, it is known as Village of Wild Plumes. Now, in the earlier days, now it is known as Bangkok, but it is also known for many I will say regions. For example, when it comes to Indian context, usually we say South Indian people, they are rice eating people, North Indian people, they are wheat eating people, like that. And we utilize them for different purposes also. We utilize them for distinctions also. Means when we want to categorize like this, South Indian, North Indian, or something like that, then also we utilize. And that way they have played, say, a great role in our civilization. Now, when it comes to archaeobotanical context, usually we get fragments of these plants, and they belongs to archaeological context. From these, say, remains, we can interpret the past economies, we can interpret the foodways from the plants, how much they have migrated to the India. And in certain cases also, it is applicable that, um, uh, for example, this case I'm going to discuss, that we also can interpret the environmental changes that happened in the past. And that also provides evidence for the, say, the plants, how much they must have domesticated and how they have changed our lives. That is also possible. Now, for example, this you can see, these specimens, they're either available in microscopic form or macroscopic form. You can see even with the, say, simple lens or the naked eye. When it comes to microscopic specimens are most of the time it is in the form of phytoliths and pollens. And macroscopic specimens, they are usually the fragments of the leaves, flowers, seed grains. They are excavated on the larger scale, seeds as well as the grains. Most of the time they get charred seeds or charred grains. And in very rare cases, we get wood utilized in the archaeological context. So this specimen was given to me by Archaeological Survey of India by Dr. Manager Singh. And he asked me whether you can identify the plant embedded in this particular piece of, say, soil or mud. Of course, this was a piece that was extracted from fallen samples, fallen pieces of a plaster from Yellora, and that was that. In the beginning only, I said we can identify the plants whenever it has leaves, whenever it is a twig with well-developed leaves, normal leaves, and it should have flowers at the same time, sometimes fruit. Then only you can identify to the species level. And this was very difficult, I will say. Nobody can say whether it is a grass, whether it is a fiber or something like that. And that's why it was very difficult to identify the plant in this case. And when I asked the age of it, he said that it belongs to 5th to 7th century. And almost 1500, 1600-year old specimen, identification of the specimen, it is almost next to impossible. But till then, I said, being a curious, I said I will try to identify it. I will not assure that I can identify, but I will try to identify it to my best. And he put forth some conditions that you will not involve any of your student in the investigation of this. I said, what is the reason behind it? Because being a professor in the university, being a faculty in the university, you have many, say, responsibilities, many committees and other things to do. And that's why it is very difficult to get the time to investigate at your own. And that's why many times students, they help in identification or investigation. We can go more, I will say, for interpretation of it. But when it comes to investigation, then that goes very difficult to get the time. And then he said, no, this sample is very precious. We cannot harvest another sample from the wall. This is fallen sample, and that's why this is this much only the sample we have for the investigation. And that's why you will not involve any of your student. Whatever you want to do, you have to do at your own. And that is the responsibility, and that's why you have to do it. If at all you will come, come out of or come with any kind of publication, then the equal authorship will be of Archaeological Survey of India. And once you finish the investigation, again, you will return the specimens to Archaeological Survey of India. So with these three conditions, he said, you can go ahead. And I said, okay, I will try to identify it, but I will not assure again. Again, I said, I will not assure that I can identify this kind of sample. because I'm doing it for the first time. And this opened a new avenue for me, and it was, say, um, archaeobotany, we can say. And once this was investigated, of course, I could get samples from Archaeological Survey of India from different archaeological sites from Maharashtra. Of course, I will not talk about this particular part, but the samples were from mud plaster, then plasters were from broken bricks, particularly when it comes to Nalasopara stupa, some broken bricks were investigated in the laboratory. And if you see all these sites particularly, they fall on the ancient trade routes, which were passing from north to south. And at every place, you will find either a monastery or a temple or say kind of cave. At all these places, you can see. So I need to investigate everything related to that place, related to its geography, related to its history, related to its economics and other parts, geology and other parts too, because this was from Ellora. So when I started to investigate what is Ellora, what is because we know it when it comes to Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar, we know, or Marathwada person, they know it is Verul, and the popular name is Ellora. So this Ellora name was given by Britishers. And prior to Verul, there were two different names, Yellur and Yellapura. And later on, it was metamorphosed into Verul. So if you see, as I discussed in the previous slide, that it was falling on the ancient South Asian trade routes. So if you see in the northern part or the upper side of this slide particularly, so the ancient routes, they were coming to the Ujjain, and from Ujjain it will come to Mahishmati. Now this place is known as Maheshwar. And from Maheshwar it will come down to Burhanpur, and from Burhanpur it will come down to Ghatotkacha. So we know Ajanta, we know Ellora, but we know very little about these places like that of Ghatotkacha, Bahal, Pitalkhora, and say even Bhokardana. Bhokardan, we know very little about these places. So this ancient trade route that was bifurcating into two, one was going to Bahal in near Chalisgaon, and another route was going to Ajanta. Ajanta, it will continue to Bhogvardhana. Now this place is known as Bhokardana, and then it will come down to Aurangabad. Then it was known as Raj Talka. And then again it will go down to Pratishthan, Paithan, and then to Ter in Usmanabad district. And another route was going to the Pune. The route which was bifurcating from Ghatotkacha to Bahal, it will come down to Pitangalaya. Now it is known as Pitalkhora, and then it will come down to Ellora, and it will join Aurangabad and Paithan at the same time. So this was the say ancient trade route. It was falling on the ancient trade route, and it was its historical importance, I can say. Now, when it comes to Ellora caves, particularly, it is a cave complex. This is not one cave or two caves or something like that. So there are many caves as per Archaeological Survey of India's say context. And out of these many caves, or more than 100 caves, only 34 they are open for the common public. Rest of the caves, either they are incomplete or unfinished the caves, and you don't get anything that's why probably they are not open, they are not known to common public. In 1980s, it was also declared as UNESCO's World Heritage Site, and being largest rock-cut monastery temple cave complex, because we get three different religions at the same place. We get Hinduism, we get Buddhism, we get Jainism, and all these caves, they are known for these three different religions, and that's why it is monastery temple cave complex. So it is falling on ancient trade routes, and it was also known for commercial center in the Deccan region in ancient times. And it was also rest stop for the pilgrims, because in the vicinity we also get Krishneshwara temple, then in down south at Parli Vaidnath temple, and even Paithan was also known for commercial trade center. At the same time, even also it was known for pilgrims or the temple part of associated with Pratishthan or Paithan. And at the same time, even this cave complex, where Ellora cave complex, it was probably even it was a hostel for the student. Why it was there, I will talk on that particular part later. So out of the 34 caves which are open for the common public, first 12 caves, they are Buddhist caves, cave number 1 to 12. Then 17 caves, they are Hinduism caves, and they are from 13 to 29. And last 5 caves, they are Jainism caves, 30 to 34. And even in chronology also, Buddhist caves were excavated earlier than Hindu or Jain caves, and all the depictions you get at one place. Now, the sample provided to me was from cave number 12. Now, if you see on the left-hand side, very left-hand side, this is the image of cave number 12. It is a three-storied cave. There is one more cave in the vicinity. These two caves, they are known as the Teen Tal caves. And if you see the internal structure of it, this is the ground floor, first floor, and second floor. In between, whatever we get dark square, they indicate the pillars inside, whatever pillars they are visible here in 3 images. These are the pillars. The posterior side, it is known as the Vihara, where you get either any of, say, form of Lord Gautam Buddha, which was worshipped by the followers. And if you see the ground floor and the first floor, the peripheral part of these caves that is known to have some chambers. This probably the chamber they must have served as rooms for the monks as well as the whoever was interested in the Buddhism to stay there, and probably it must have served as rest of for the pilgrims at the same time for the students too. So if you see on the right hand side, a very extreme right hand side, this is from the third, second floor. And for the peripheral part, we don't get the chambers, but the walls are there. And these walls, they have some kind of plaster on it. Probably it was meant for the painting. Now, unfortunately, when we compare it along with Ajanta caves were not at all known for the common public, at least for a few 100 years. They were buried under the debris, and once Britisher that reached there for poaching of the tigers, then only again we came to know that there are caves of Ajanta, but that is not the case with Ellora. They're known for the common public right from the beginning, and that's why there were many activities were done by whatever population it was there available right from its origin to till date. They have utilized these caves for the different purposes. And that's why there is much destruction as compared to Ajanta in Ellora caves. And that's why we don't get any kind of painting as of today. But till then, the walls are there. But now we don't get any kind of structures available on the wall. So the sample was from one of the wall from this particular floor. And then it was also interesting part associated with excavation of cave. So whenever we construct our houses, usually it starts from the bottom and goes then to the roof and first floor, second floor, like that. But here it is exactly vice versa process. So once you have finished the roof, then only you can come to the wall, and then only you can remove whatever the rock or the debris is there on the ground, and then you can clear the ground. So when it comes to painting, then you need to have a smooth wall to paint whatever you want to paint. And that's why it was very difficult to get a smooth wall, because these caves, they are excavated entirely in basalt. So they were having chisel and hammer, the simplest instruments or equipments available at that time. So along with these chisels and hammers, they have chiseled out these walls initially into rough structure, then into fine structure, and then a mud plaster was applied on this particular smooth wall to make it more finished, I will say, or more smooth. Then only it was ready for any kind of painting. So till today, even you go to Ajanta, even you go to Ellora, we get such kind of unfinished caves. So this can be considered as unfinished cave or incomplete cave. Reason may be anything. Probably they were not having patronage, or they lacked patronage in the latter part of excavation of these caves, and that's why they were left as it is or incomplete. And that is probably was one of the biggest reason that we get at many places, we get such kind of unfinished caves. So the plaster was applied to this particular wall. Now, if you see here on the right hand side, this is the carrier basalt where the plaster is applied. So this is mud plaster, and then there are two layers of coarse lime and fine lime, and then it is available for any kind of painting. If you see the diagrammatic representation of the same on the left hand side, this is the carrier basalt, then the mud plaster, then the coarse lime, and then the fine lime, and then it is ready for any kind of painting. Now, one must understand whatever creations have done by our ancestors or forefathers, they haven't imported anything from the outside. They have utilized locally available material on the larger scale. There are some exceptions like that of Ajanta caves. They have imported blue lapis, blue colored, say rock material, especially from Afghanistan, for the utilization of blue color. And that is the only reference available associated with these caves in Maharashtra. So, but on the larger scale, they have utilized only locally available materials. It is not only the case of the plaster. Even if we compare, if we see the paintings or the colors utilized in Ajanta, they have utilized the only locally available organic materials or organic products only. Maybe it is of animal origin, maybe it is of plant origin, and from which they have created, they have made the colors, and they are utilized in the creation of these paintings. So when I investigated the samples from cave number 12 of Ellora, I could get some fibers in it. I could get some pieces of the leaves, one unopened bud, some wood pieces, and being a student of botany, being a student of taxonomy, one incomplete flower. Now, whoever is from botany background, they may be knowing why I'm saying it is incomplete flower. But for the others, I would like to explain it. So whenever we get a flower, maybe it is a hibiscus flower, China rose flower, or say Jaswan Marathi, or even a rose, the outermost part of the flower is green colored. On a very extreme outermost part, that is usually a green color, that we usually call it as a sepal or calyx. Then colorful part, usually in Marathi we call it as a pakali, Hindi pankhudi. So that is usually brightly colored, and that is meant for the attraction of the pollinator. And then the internal two parts, usually we get either as a stamen, male part, and gynoecium as a female part. So it is in bisexual flowers, or when the flower is unisexual, then either male or the female, that is androecium or gynoecium, that is only represented. Here, in this flower particularly, if you see, this was not at all representing the outermost part. It was representing only the petal kind of part, and even the central part, male or male and female, both were absent. And that's why I'm saying it is incomplete flower. Now, I took the clue from Archaeological Survey of India. They have utilized the locally available materials. I was working in, say, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University. And fortunately, the flora of Marathwada was written by or done by late Dr. V.N. Naik and his students in 1998 in 2 volumes. So if you see this particular part, I again utilized the very traditional, old traditional system that is known as Bentham-Hooker system of classification. Now, depending upon these particular, say, pieces, these kind of evidences, we can say group this particular plant into dicot group. So when it comes to botany, usually we say it is a dicotyledon or monocotyledon. So when it comes to dicotyledon, for the other sake, I will say the fruit must get broken into 2 pieces, like that of groundnut or peanut. We broke it into 2 pieces, 2 equal halves. But we cannot break jowar, bajra, wheat, or rice into 2 equal pieces. That is usually called as monocotyledon. And whenever it gets break into 2 pieces, usually we call it as a dicotyledon. But many times we don't need to say segregate these plants into these 2 say groups. based on only seed availability. So on the based on other character also you can identify whether it belongs to dicotyledon or monocotyledon. So in monocotyledon, usually we get parallel veined leaves, means like that of grasses or banana. When you break it, it goes in single line. It cannot be, I will say, very go differently. But it is not the case with other mango tree or say mango leaf or castor leaf. It breaks into unequal, I will say, line, and that is called as reticulate venation. So in grasses, particularly, it is called as parallel venation, and in dicotyledons, it is usually called as reticulate venation. In root system also, we get usually whenever you uproot any grass, that is there is no taproot. There is a fibrous root. All the time we get fibers in it. And whenever you uproot any kind of bigger plant, we get one main root, and it has then the many adventitious or the say secondary or tertiary roots. And when it comes to flower also, you have seen flower of China rose or jaswan, and you also have seen flower of orchids particularly. So China rose or datura flower, it is known to have 4 to 5 petals, which is attractive part of the flower. And when it comes to orchid or lily flowers, usually the petals or the perianth, it is always available in the multiple of 3. So here in this, there were 5 petals, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's why. And even the leaf structure, whatever we got here, that was showing reticulate venation. So it was indicating that it belongs to dicotyledonous group. And then I referred to the flora along with this traditional system of classification. Then I came to conclusion that it is belonging to apetally or monoclamidy. Why it is apetally or monoclamidy? Because if we see all the dicotyledons, they're further divided into 3 groups: polypetally, gamopetally, and apetally. I will try to say explain this in very simple part. So whenever we get petals, they are free from each other, like that of roses, like that of hibiscus. The petals are free from each other and they cannot be considered as a tube. So that belongs to polypetally. When it is gamopetally, like that of datura flower, all the petals they are fused, forming a tube kind of structure. So it is a gamopetally. And in both the flowers, then the outermost or the outermost basal part, it is always green in color, that is indicating calyx or the sepal. And the last group of this dicotyledon, it is monoclamidy, where you get only one whorl of it, either sepal or the petal, and they may be free, they may be united, but only one part. And that's why this specimen, whatever I was having, that was belonging to apetally or monoclamidy group. And fortunately, I said that Flora of Marathwada was written by late Dr. V.N. Naik in 1998. And for such a drier region, drought-prone region, he has reported more than 1718 species. So it was considered as one of the richest flora, particularly when it comes to drier part like that of Marathwada. So I again shortlisted the plants belonging to monoclamidy or apetally from the flora of Marathwada, which was written by late Dr. V.N. Naik. And I listed out almost 166 species they were belonging to this particular group. Now, I started to compare, of course, when it comes to flora, when it comes to documentation of all the, say, species from that particular region. So we need to provide a description for it. We need to provide a description for it. So entire description right from root to seed is already available in almost all the floras. So I started to compare the specimen available with me, that is a leaf and a flower. Of course, when I'm talking about the flower here, this flower, of course, when it comes to flower, there are 5 petals, that is okay. But even the measurement of the flower, the upper surface structures of the flower, they were also available, and started to compare with these 166 species. And finally, I come to conclusion that this is not going to this particular 165 species, but it is going to one of the species. Now, interesting part and the most, say, prestigious part when it comes to Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, Bamu herbarium or the herbarium specimens available with the Department of Botany, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Marathwada University. It is housing more than 80,000 specimens. Botanic garden is spread over more than 44 acres and it shelters more than 1,000 species. You can get 310 species on a same say place. So that much richest botanic garden is there. And both these assets, herbarium as well as botanic garden, are the largest among all Indian universities. You don't get this much big herbarium accession at the same time botanic garden at any of the university throughout India. So finally, I identified it as a cannabis sativa. But the problem was this specimen was neither it was there in herbarium nor it was there in botanic garden, and that was the problem for the confirmation. But if you see illegally this plant, of course, I don't know how much of you are from botany background and how much of you understood that what exactly is cannabis sativa. So if I tell this is ganja, this is bhang, then probably you will understand what I'm talking about. Because why I couldn't get this plant in garden as well as the herbarium. That was the basic reason that it is completely banned in Maharashtra, and that's why legally nobody cultivates it, nobody possesses it. Legally, I'm saying. Illegally, of course, we know that it is available almost in every village, every city, but it is illegally and it is illegally sold too. Then I phoned one of my friends from Delhi University, Dr. Rajesh Tandon, because in the northern part of India, it comes as a very common weed than Parthenium hysteroporus. Usually, we call it as the Congress Gavat. Parthenium hysteroporus is known as Congress Gavat in or Congress grass in Maharashtra. Sometimes also it is called as Gajar Gavat, but it is more common, multiple times common than the Congress grass or Congress Gavat in northern part of India. And that's why I asked my friend from Delhi University to send the specimens. So within say a week, I got the specimens from him. And if you see on the left hand side, this is the fresh specimen and this is the archaeological specimen. So I also compared with the flower. Now this is having only male part in it and this is only flower. These are the birds, living birds, and this is the archaeological bird. Meanwhile, I also went for scanning electron micrograph of leaf as well as the flower, and it was also exactly matching to each other. During this time, the sample who gave to me, Dr. Manager Singh, he was from chemistry background and he also went for FTIR studies. And if you see the map graph of this FTIR studies, so this is the peak of fresh specimen and this is the peak of archaeological specimen. And then it was confirmed that this is nothing but cannabis sativa, but it created so many say questions also, because in the present context, cannabis is not at all having a good name. It is a very badly known plant, especially when it comes to narcotic value or psychoactive value of the plant. But probably it was utilized at what for very different reason in the ancient times or the previous times. But till today, at least I will say, it is not at all known for say good values, and that's why it created so many questions. So what exactly is the canvas? Canvas is a sturdy cloth made from canevas, canevas, or chanevas. Now, all these are Anglo-French or Old French variants, particularly meant for cannabis. Meant for cannabis. So, in nutshell, I will say the canvas word has come from cannabis. Now, cannabis is popularly known as ganja, bhang, particularly in Hindi, and in English it is known as marijuana or weed. So, this is the plant as it appears, especially when in its natural habitat. So, ganja, for say Maharashtrians, I will say, ganja is the entire plant utilized only for the purpose of smoking. When it comes to female plant, female inflorescences, it is utilized for say oral administration along with milk or the other products. Then there is one more exudates that creates that secretes some kind of chemical, and these exudates they are called as hashish. which is very costly and it is having highest narcotic value. Interestingly, the seeds they extract oil and that is considered as edible oil. It doesn't have or have very negligible amount of that narcotic property and utilized on the larger scale for the purpose of edible oil. Now, when I started inquiring in the market, particularly, they said that we can give you, but legally we can give you. You have to provide, you have to complete some kind of legal procedure. Then only we can provide you, we can sell you. And in the market, it is available with two different, say, forms. One is in the form of square. Usually in Marathi, we call it as wadi. And another, it is available in the form of laddu, that is round shape, that is called as Bengal ganja. So Bengal ganja is available almost everywhere. Now also, if you go to Mumbai, in many, say, the pan shops, we get this ganja or Bengal ganja in the name of Shivji ka laddu. And then I got one more reference that it is also known as different, say, variety of it. It is known as industrial hemp. It has very negligible or no amount of that narcotic property. So when it comes to its geography, it was domesticated in the northern part of China, and that is known as Altai Mountains of Mongolia region, Mongoloid region. And then it was exported throughout the world for the purpose of its fiber, not for its narcotic property. So if you go and search the oldest references available for this particular part, the ropes utilized on ship, yachts, or wherever they were utilized, particularly on the larger, say, longer distances, longer durations, they were made only of cannabis fibers. They were made only of cannabis fiber. Almost 80% fibers that was extracted from cannabis. So on the upper hand side, you can see this particular image. The fiber is extracted from this like that. And then it was utilized in the making of ropes. And somewhere 2000 years before, it entered India through, say, Afghanistan, now part of Pakistan in India. And if we consider the, say, duration or the time of traveling by this plant, particularly from northern part to central part of India or the, say, southern part of India, it must have taken more, at least I will say next 100, 200, 300 years. So approximately 1500, 1600 years before, it must have reached the Ellora for different purposes. Now, when it comes to history, of course, we know that it was domesticated somewhere in the northern part of China. But then if you see, it has intruded almost all systems of the medicine throughout the world, not only in China, not only in India, but it has intruded almost all systems of the medicine throughout the world, and even in Atharva Veda, it has intruded, and it is considered one of the 5 sacred plants of India. So that much importance it gained in that particular part. Finally, we left that it's a good property, and then we shifted towards its bad property. It was utilized as ganja or bhang rather than its fiber. So if you go in North India, particularly in UP, Bihar, or say any northern part of any state in the northern part of India, you get the plant like this. It is very common. On the very left hand side, this is male plant. On the very down left hand side, this is female plant. And in field, it looks like this. Now, this is a short film I'm showing particularly from Haryana, how much it is available on the roadsides. And that's why it is beyond control. You cannot control it. On both the sides of the road, we were traveling with the jeep, and it was plenty, almost say everywhere on both the sides. Moreover, when it comes to its narcotic value, legal issues, they're also very interesting. When it comes to narcotic value, in the route particularly, you don't get anything. But when you go up the plant, in same very negligible amount of that THC, that is known as tetrahydrocannabinol, The quantity is very less. When you go to the leaf, it goes on increasing little bit. When you come to the flower, particularly female flowers, they are having more, say, narcotic property, THC. That content of THC goes on increasing. When you compare male and female plants, male is having very negligible amount of THC, whereas the female plant is having very high amount of THC. And when it comes to its legal issue, possession of male plant is not at all say that will not bring you much in difficulty. But if you possess female plant, nobody can save you. You will be behind the bars without bail. Unfortunately, even say many botanists, they cannot identify whether this is cannabis sativa, then it is male or female. How police department is going to identify? And that's why in both cases, at least in the beginning phase, I will say, or beginning, you will be in the difficulty. So that is the legal issue associated with it. Another thing, down south of Maharashtra, it is completely banned. Whether it is male or female, nothing doing, it is completely banned. But if you go in North India, you cannot ban it because it is growing as very common weed. And this is particularly from Prayagraj. There is Sarkari Bhang ki dukan. We cannot go in Maharashtra and ask like that of, I want some bhang. But if you go in Uttar Pradesh, it is available in government, Sarkari Bhang ki dukan like that of, it is available. So this is one of the chemical of 483 different chemicals known from the single plant, and it is known as delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol. Popularly, it is known as a THC. And that fades out all the great properties of these 482 other chemicals known from this plant. And this is the only chemical THC that makes this beautiful plant as a useful plant as a bad plant. Now, while investigating the samples, I could get two insects in this. And these insects, one is the bug and another is beetle. So this is the upper view of the beetle and this is lower view of the beetle. Any zoologist is there in this audience, then if you ask them to identify, they will ask how many segments are in the antenna. So these insects are also equally old like that of that plant is. So almost 1500, 1600 year old these specimens are, and these were identified and later on that was published in different say journal by Dr. Manager Singh along with some other say people. So this plant is known for its antimicrobial at the same time insecticidal property, and that's why insects were killed on the plant and they were preserved as it is because it was having antimicrobial property. So fungus as well as bacteria, they cannot grow on the plant as well as this dead insect, and that's why probably this remained as it is even after 1500, 1600 years. In British monuments, the cannabis or hemp is utilized for the purpose of construction. In one of the previous slide, I mentioned about industrial, and now I'm coming to that particular part. So it was utilized particularly in these British monuments as the insulating agent, and it will absorb humidity. So whoever will be there inside the building, they will create some kind of humidity inside, and that humidity will be absorbed by these particular fibers. So probably our ancestors, forefathers, they were knowing these kind of facts, and that's why they have utilized this particular plant as one of the mixture in the soil or in the mud to prepare the mud plaster, and it also worked as insulating agent. At the same time, it also absorbed the humidity created by the people who have visited these particular caves. So why it is used as an insulating agent? Probably many of you must be from Aurangabad, and for others' sake, I will say, in the winter, the temperatures they fall down to 7 to 10 degrees in say 7 to 10 degrees centigrade, and in summer they rise almost 44 to 45 degrees centigrade. So along with that, even we get diurnal as well as nocturnal say fluctuations in the temperature, daytime temperature and nighttime temperature also, and that creates then expansion and compression of the any surface, and it creates then the cracks in the surface or cracks in the plaster. And whenever we are visiting these caves, either through exhalation or the sweating, we are creating or we are adding to the humidity in that particular cave. And even in our houses, newly constructed houses, we have seen whenever there is, say, rains, particularly this is the rainy season in Maharashtra. And in rainy season, usually the walls, they get wetness, they get dampness, and this dampness that harbors the growth of, that favors the growth of bacteria as well as fungus. But if you visit these particular sites, neither you get, say, bacterial growth, nor you get any kind of fungal growth on these paintings, or as well as, say, on these walls. And till today, even after 1500, 1600 years, the stickiness or the gluiness of this cannabis has hold the walls together intact as it is. Whatever destruction is there, that is only because of human pressure or anthropogenic pressure. So we are only responsible for destroying these walls, destroying these paintings, destroying these, say, monuments. We cannot blame the others that somebody came and destroyed, but we are also equally responsible for that. And probably because of the antimicrobial properties, insecticidal properties, insulating agent, and humidity absorption, our forefathers, they must have utilized the cannabis in the purpose of the wall construction in this. Then we got one reference that in, say, recent years, in, say, last 50 years in Europe and America, they're utilizing the cannabis for the purpose of construction. And this is utilized as a carbon, say, negative material, building material. And this is sold in the market as hempcrete or limecrete. So if you are utilizing along with the lime, then it is called as limecrete. And when you are utilizing along with the cement, then it is called as hempcrete. So almost 30% content is of the hemp, and that's why it reduces the cost of production. It works as the insulating agent, so you don't need to fit, or say, the internal temperature as well as the extra outer temperature of the house. It will be always ambient. If at all you create any kind of any amount of humidity, it will absorb all the humidity, so it will not allow any growth on the wall because of its antimicrobial property too. And this is now available under the name. This is known as the carbon negative material. There is one concept in Europe and America. You chop the tree. Our concept is you plant the tree. Now the chopping the tree is concept in, say, European and American parts is you chop the tree, make it into furniture or the, say, floor, and maintain that furniture for the centuries. So probably the concept behind that is, if the tree remains in the field or remains in the forest, maybe it will die after 100 years, and again it will decompose and release the carbon, whatever it has trapped. But if you maintain the furniture in your house for, say, more than 100 years, probably that carbon will be trapped in the form of wood for, say, many centuries, many generations. Our concept is totally different. Our concept is don't chop the tree, you try to plant another tree. Of course, none of us, we follow this kind of practice. We are just going or deforesting all the jungle. But this entire story took a turn when we got a wheat grain and wheat straw, because it again created not only many questions, even it went on, say, different lines too. Now, both these examples, if you take hemp as well as wheat, they are not at all originally from this land. They have come from the temperate region. They have come from the temperate region. And now both are cultivated in the southern part or part of Yellora, we can say. We will not talk about the other parts, but we will say these were cultivated at this place. Now, there is one reference by Fuller. Fuller has worked extensively on, say, archaeobotanical context of India. And even for Python, he has written one chapter in that, in one of the books. And in each chapter, he has mentioned that hemp was cultivated in Python for the purpose of edible seed oil. Edible seed oil. So for the purpose of edible oil, the hemp was cultivated at Python, but only for the purpose of edible oil, not for its narcotic property. In previous slide, we have seen that female plants, they have higher amount of narcotic property as compared to male. But here they have utilized only for the purpose of its seed. That means they haven't utilized the plants for the different purposes. And moreover, now the hemp plant is of monsoon plant and wheat plant is usually of, say, winter plant. So immediately after monsoon, we try to, say, cultivate wheat on the larger scale. But in the monsoon, we go for the another crops, not for the wheat. That is the usual practice we are following in our part. So this was taking another question, another twist in this entire story, that probably they have utilized the wheat along with, say, the mud immediately on the onset of monsoon. Now, why I'm saying it is onset of monsoon, Marathwada region was known for or is known for a drought prone area. So there was large amount of water scarcity prior to Jayakwadi Dam. So whenever you are going to construct a new house, you need a plenty of water, and plenty of water is available only in the months of monsoon. So on the onset of monsoon, they have utilized the straw, say wheat straw from the previous crop. And once the monsoon is set, then the hemp crop is ready for the, say, harvesting. Then they have utilized it in the larger scale, especially on the middle of the monsoon. After the middle of the monsoon, they have utilized cannabis sativa or the hemp in the purpose of construction. Now, this is creating another, say, question. Now, in cannabis, male plant and female plant is different. Cannabis, male plant and female plant are separate. In the entire investigation, whatever samples I got from the Yellora, I couldn't get single seed in it. So it was indicating they have utilized only male plants. They have utilized only male plants, and hardly 50 kilometers away from Yellora, aerial distance I'm talking, at Python, it was cultivated only for the purpose of seeds. In natural course, when it comes to cannabis sativa, in natural course, when there are high temperatures, low humidity, and less nutrients, 99% seeds will germinate as male plants. And when there are low temperatures, high humidity, and rich nutrients, 99% seeds will germinate as female plants. So whatever samples we investigated, in that we couldn't get single seed in it. Moreover, if we compare the entire part associated with these two parameters, it was cultivated in monsoon, so the temperatures were low. It was humid part of the year, so humidity was very high. And Marathwada soils, they are most fertile soil, black cotton soil. So it was favoring the growth of female rather than the male. Technically, it should favor the growth of female plants rather than male plants. But we couldn't get single fruit, single seed, single ovary in it. So it was indicating they have utilized only male plants. So when we are talking about this change in the sex in natural course, that also indicates that farmers, they know the technique of changing the sex in the plants from male to female and female to male. Male to female and female to male. Like that, it is known. So whether our forefathers, they were knowing this fact, whether we should grow only male plants, whether we should go only for female plants. So probably we have answer for that. In the vicinity at Python, they were growing female plants on the larger scale and only, say, few plants as a male plant for the purpose of fertilization. On the other hand, they have utilized the same species only for the purpose of male plants at the Yellora or Verud. So our forefathers, probably they were knowing that the technique of change sex in the plants. Of course, now also it is done by farmers, though we blame them, we many times tease them that they're illiterate or something like that. Probably I will say they are more educated than us. We are literate. They're Though they are illiterate, they are more educated. Though we are more literate, we are uneducated as compared to the farmers. I will explain this in 2 or 3 different examples. Papaya. Many times we sow the seed and then we come to know that this plant is entirely male plant. So they go for girdling of or they remove some kind of skin, some part of the skin on the plant, and then the plant gets converted into female than from male. Another example is oil palm. In natural course, if we grow oil palm, in natural course, almost for 8 to 9 years, it produces only male flowers. So it is of no use as well as economical for the farmers to grow the plants or say maintain the plant in the farm without any productivity. But if you pluck the male part of the plant, male flowers of the plant manually for first 2 years, immediately after 3rd year or 4th year, the plant transforms itself into a female plant. Yes. Number 31, yes. Hello, number 31. Are you asking something?
I'm sorry, sir.
Okay, no issue. So that was say another issue associated with it. Moreover, Lord Krishneshwara temple is also in the vicinity. And if you take all these examples, when it comes to Mahashivratri, when the bhang is usually administered orally, enjoyed it. It is also in the month of February or say the 1st or 2nd week of March, when the temperatures are very low. That is the time of peak winter, we can say. And then in the vicinity, it was again Yellora. So probably the technique was known, and that's why they have utilized that technique to grow male plants at Yellora and female plants at Vaithan. But they haven't. At one place, they asked me whether they have consumed it. So one of the precept of Buddhism, when it comes to the religion, Panchashila Tattva there, and the 5th precept is that you refrain from taking any intoxicant. Of course, I will come to that part, but we will discuss related only, I will say, associated with the environmental part. Now, if you see this particular part, so along with this, we also get some other, materials in this. And these materials were at Python, I also already mentioned about the Fuller's, paper, that they have got Kodo millet at the Pratishthan or Python. So that time, and it is in the larger quantity or enormous quantity, they have got it at, excavation site, particularly at Python. So it indicates at that time, particularly the Kodo millet. Now we are talking about the millet from 2023. It was declared as a millet year. Now we are talking, but in prior to that, prior to 1500, 1600, Kodo was cultivated on a larger scale, Paspalum strobiculatum, in marshy areas in and around Python. And it was utilized for the purpose of, instead of jowar, bajra, it was utilized on the larger scale. At the same time, at the same place, cannabis was also utilized or grown only for the purpose of its edible oil seeds, and the other properties were not at all known. This entire agriculture pattern that changed to jowar, bajra, and other millets, that shifted from Kodo millet to other millet, pearl millet or something like that. Pearl millet, jowar is called as pearl millet, bajra is also there. So it shifted to that. And from now, it shifted from jowar, bajra to only sugarcane and soybean. So this kind of shift from one crop to another, that also can be predicted on the basis of these archaeobotanical evidences, and it was there. Another thing, whenever we investigated samples from Ajanta as well as Ellora as well as Ajanta, I will say, I also examined the sections, specimens from Pitalkhora. We also could get samples of moss, MOSS moss, usually utilized as a moss stick nowadays, and it is extracted, mostly harvested from Mahabaleshwar kind of forest. So the presence of these moss species in these samples that indicates sometimes in the past 1500, 1600 years before, there was much availability of water in the form of precipitation. So probably the rainfall was more as compared to today, especially in this drier region, and that also can be interpreted based on this, particularly when it comes to environmental change. Now, why they have utilized it? And at different places, they have utilized totally different plant, but locally available plant. So first thing, that will provide a mechanical strength to the plaster. Another, it will work as the insulating agent that will not allow the change in the temperature, external as well as inner, and it will absorb whatever humidity is there available in this particular part. And that's why they have utilized different plants. Now, today, if you go to Soegaon, if you go to some places of Ajanta, in the vicinity of Ajanta, very rarely now we are cultivating the rice at this place. But in the ancient times, probably it was cultivated on a very larger scale, not only at Ajanta, but even at Pitalkhora. Because at Ajanta as well as Pitalkhora, the rice husk is utilized on a very larger scale. But when it comes to Bhaja caves near Pune or Lonavala or Khandala, they have utilized a totally different plant that is called as Kumbha or Kumbi. And these fibers, now also the farmers, they utilize for the purpose of bundling the extracted or harvested say, fodder. And today also they utilize that as a rope. And that fiber is utilized in the purpose of plaster construction in Karla as well as the Bhaja caves. Now I'll come back again to that particular part. At one place, one student said that probably, sir, they must have consumed the female plant and they must have utilized only male plant for the purpose of construction. So when it comes to Buddhism, I was talking about this, that fifth precept says, refrain from taking any intoxicant that should not prejudice or pollute your mind. And that's why the answer for whether they have consumed it, no, they didn't. Because when it comes to Sura means liquor. So it is not only liquor or something, some plants like that of cannabis, even the beauty or the handsomeness of the other sex, that also pollute our mind. And that is the fifth precept of Buddhism, refrain from taking any intoxicant. And that's why the answer for this is no. I also investigated samples from Solapur Fort, where I got the samples like that of Panicum millesium. Now also it is utilized as one of the millets. And from Amravati, I could get the sample of Kali Musli, which is now utilized on a larger scale in medicine. Very recently, this species is described as the Curculigo sabui by one of my friend and student, Dr. Gore, Dr. Gaikwad, and Dr. Garad from Solapur. But this was excavated from Amravati, one of the archaeological sites from Amravati, but it was utilized for different purpose. While doing this investigation, I took help from many. Of course, I should thank authorities of both Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, at the same time Savitribai Phule University, Pune. I also thank my friends Professor Ashok Chavan, Dabe, and Abhay Salve. Because of Ashok Chavan, he introduced me Dr. Manager Singh from ASI. Dabe and Abhay Salve, they only gave some insights about Buddhism. Then person from geology, history, Indology, chemistry, all they helped me in these studies. And especially I will thank Professor Chen Xingli and Yifeng Yao from Chinese Academy of Sciences, Beijing, because they also have excavated cannabis sativa, but it is hardly 800-year-old cannabis sativa from one of the Chinese tomb. Thank you. And also Rafe. Hello. Hello.
Yes, hello, sir.
Yes, any question?
Participants, if anyone having any question, please raise some questions.
Sir, I have a small doubt there.
Ah,
In such a wall, there is written like you just refrain from this kind of toxicants.
ah.
Then how we can conclude that they were not using such items?
See, when it comes to religion and when it comes to ancient time, always we have to consider the good part of it, the positive side of it. Hello.
Sir, please. Okay.
Yeah. Whenever we are investigating like this, like such samples, always we have to consider positive side of it. And when it comes to any religion, at that time also we have to consider the good sides of every religion. And if we go back to 5th and 7th century, I hope I'm audible to everybody.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. If we go back to 5th and 7th century, the Buddhism was on its peak of flourishment and it was followed very strictly. And that's why I'm saying the answer is no for it.
Okay. That means we have no enough evidence for using that.
No, that time it was not utilized as a narcotic. Most of the time it was utilized as a fiber plant only. Now it has, say, like that of our smartphones. No, they can be utilized as, say, wonderful instrument. But now we, including our, say, next generation, they are busy in spending 1.5 GB data to 2 GB data. If at all they exhaust it, they are ready to borrow it from the others. So we always have left its good property and always shifted to bad property of everything.
Oh, okay,
But
sir.
if we
Okay.
go
Thank you.
back, because it was introduced in India approximately, say, 1700, 1800 years before. And within 300 years, you get its other property that is little bit difficult part.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, thank you.
Sardesai, sir, is I audible? Sardesai, sir, माझा आवाज येतोय का सर?
येतोय सर, येतोय.
ओके सर, यानंतर परत सेशन कंटिन्यू करणार आहात की सेशन कन्क्लूड करायचं?
Yes, session conclude करायचं.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for giving a nice and informative lecture. Actually, sir, we are the physics time. That means in 13th induction program, we are having different faculties from different backgrounds. I exactly don't know whether any botany faculty is present. As per my concern, still I don't know that what exactly means of archaeobotany. You've given us a nice idea and information regarding the archaeobotany. That's why. Thank you, sir. Thank you for nice lecture. On behalf of UGC MMTC, I also thank you.
तर ते काल फीडबॅक फॉर्म झाला नव्हता बरं का, ते एरर येतात त्याला, काय आज पण तसंच येईल का? कोणी काही सांगेल याच्यावरती?
सर थोडं वेट करा.
ओके.
अमोल सर.
सर वेट कीजिए, रिसोर्स पर्सन ज्वाइन करेंगे अभी, जस्ट टेक्निकल
ओके
इशू
ओके सर, एक्चुअली उन्होंने बोला था सेशन कंक्लूड करना है, इसीलिए मैंने सेशन कंक्लूड किया है. मतलब सेकंड लेक्चर और होगा क्या?
तो पार्टिसिपेंट्स, जो सरदेसाई सर का लेक्चर था, वो सर ने कुछ इमरजेंसी के लिए सर को कॉल आया, तो इसलिए अभी सेकंड सेशन नहीं होगा. इसके बदले सर एक यूट्यूब पर लेक्चर, मॉक लेक्चर डालने वाले, आपको देखना है. तो मैं अभी यहाँ पर जूम मीटिंग एंड करता हूँ.
ओके
आपको
ओके, थैंक यू.
व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप पर एक मॉक लेक्चर की एक यूट्यूब लिंक मिल जाएंगे आपको, वहाँ पर वो लेक्चर अटेंड करना है.
ओके
ठीक है सर. ठीक है सर,
ठीक आहे
थँक
सर.
यू. थँक यू.
ओके, थँक्यू सर.
सर कालचा फीडबॅक बाबतीत काही सांगता येईल का?
सर फीडबॅक, जो भी फीडबॅक का इश्यू है वो
25
जल्दी सॉल्व
प्रेजेंट
हो.
है यहाँ.
यस यस.
हेलो सर, 25
फीडबैक के
प्रेजेंट
लिए
है.
इंफॉर्मेशन है, थोड़ा सा टेक्निकल इश्यू है, कल कल या परसों तक सॉल्व हो जाएगा, इसलिए फीडबैक भरने की थोड़ा सा दिक्कत आ रहा है पार्टिसिपेंट के लिए. तब
ओके सर,
परसों तक हो
ओके सर.
जाएगा सर, कल या परसों तक हो
ओके
जाएगा.
सर.
सर
ओके सर.
तो participant, you
अभी
can
क्या
leave
होगा
this
सर?
meeting. Sir, participant, you can leave this Zoom meeting and you can join mock lecture.